Welcome to the show. I'm James.
I'm David.
I'm Riley.
And today we are discussing the 2021 Marvel movie, Eternals. Is it The Eternals?
I think it's just Eternals.
We'll laugh, we'll argue, we might get a little too into it, but at the end of the day, they're just movies.
But I don't know.
What, the Babadook spoiler alert?
No, I was trying to think of I don't know. Spoiler alert.
You lost your privileges.
I lost it.
You could do
done.
I didn't even think about
it.
the Celestial.
Spoiler alert.
That's way better. Thank you.
There's the dog. The dog is back.
The dog?
Whatever. I've been listening to too much Scott Galloway on the Pivot podcast. All right, guys. Next week, we're doing The Matrix Reloaded.
Woo!
Several weeks after that, not even several, a few weeks after that, we'll do Revolutions. And then 2 weeks after that, it'll be Christmas, and it'll be Matrix 4 time.
Resurrection.
Wow.
Don't worry, there's lots of space in between. If you're not a Matrix person, there's going to be lots of other films in the weeks between. But today, it's Eternals all day. The movie that made $70 million in opening weekend, that's almost twice as much as Dune.
Is it?
Is it twice as good? David, what is your rating and slogan for this movie? Give it a rating out of 10.
The Eternals is breathtaking and astonishingly frustrating. When it returns from its initial orbit of infinite possibilities, the familiar formulas and feelings I've grown so fucking tired of in the decades of superhero oversaturation. Give me the Zhao cut.
Okay.
5 out of 10.
The Zhao cut.
This movie is at its best when it's kind of like messy, and at the beginning when it's like, oh, kind of an overview of history and like how these people could influence stuff. But when it falls back into like the superhero team up movie, it's so fucking boring and so generic and not special.
I feel like there are some key reasons for that, though, and we'll get into that. But here's my slogan. I guess we're entering the part of the MCU's history where if like they were a band, this would be like Coldplay doing collabs with Katy Perry or something. Because, things are getting weird and not in a good way. I'm also giving this 5 out of 10. David, we're freaking
so
in sync, dude.
Damn, you just started a boy band.
Coldplay 2, the sequel.
NSYNC, man. Come on. Anyway.
What?
What is Eternals? Imagine phases 1 through 4 of the MCU were all one movie, and the characters were way lamer, and you probably have no nostalgia factor. That's Eternals. Somehow higher than you guys, 6.25 out of 10. I thought I laughed out loud several times.
Yeah.
I thought it warmed up. Here's the thing. When you're watching like a team up fight scene like they have at the beginning of this movie, but you don't know or have intimate knowledge of each person's individual personality and powers, the team up aspect doesn't move you. It doesn't matter. But then by the third hour of this movie, God damn it, you do kind of have that knowledge, so that it's a little more compelling. So, I kind of got there by the end. There's some things I liked about this movie, and I'll tell you all about them right after this message from our sponsor, Manscaped. The best in men's below-the-belt grooming. Manscaped offers precision-engineered tools for your family jewels, including their 4th-generation trimmer, the Lawnmower 4.0. Its new wireless charging system removes the need to bring cables with you, and it's compatible with most Qi charging pads. The Lawnmower 4.0 includes ceramic blades and skin-safe tech, reducing nicks and cuts. It's cordless, it's waterproof, it gets 90 minutes of charge, or 90 minutes of use on a full charge. So head to manscaped.com/carpool20 and get 20% off and free shipping today. And you know what? That's probably been updated, but I didn't see it. TJM is supported by Vessi and their Everyday Move shoe. It's a great shoe that's light and comfortable, and most importantly, waterproof. That's not it, David.
None of us are actually wearing it, but
we all have
wearing
Weekender.
Vessi shoes.
They're made from dual climate knit material, and they're easy to pack, and they're 100% vegan. And I like mine because they're super easy to get on and off. So you should get yours too. Doesn't matter what the weather's like outside; they just work. So head to vessi.com/TJM. That stands for They're Just Movies.
Move every day. Every day you got to move.
So here's the thing about this movie. They had some considerable headwinds and tailwinds in making this movie.
Yep.
Headwinds, I would say, include having 9 characters.
10.
Well, are we including the significant others as well?
No, there's 10 Eternals.
There's 10 Eternals.
Jeez.
Plus
5 of the Brainies, 5 of the Brawnies.
Plus the deviant guy, Crow.
And they lose their healer.
That doesn't even count as a character. What the fuck was that? It was a waste of time. And Jon Snow doesn't exist as a character for this movie. Exists as a fucking...
Yeah.
He exists solely for the post-credit scene.
You talking about the Black Knight?
Yeah. That was...
Spoilers!
Is that a...
We're already in spoiler.
Oh, yeah.
Okay, the post-credit scene.
Yeah, the post-credit scene. Because what was the first...
Wait, there's 2 post-credit scenes?
Yeah, there's a mid...
I got out of there.
Maybe I should do the synopsis. And
Yeah,
then we talk,
okay,
all right,
okay.
In 5000 BC, 10 superpowered Eternals, Ajax, Cersei, Icarus, Kingo, Sprite, Phastos, Makari, Druid, Gilgamesh, and Athena, you got all that? are sent by the celestial Arishem to protect humanity from the monstrous deviants, but they are otherwise not to interfere with human affairs. They eventually kill what they think is the last deviant and go their separate ways. 500 years later, in the present day, Cersei, Sprite, and Icarus are attacked by the deviant Crow, so they set out to reunite the Eternals, finding their leader, Ajak, dead. The mantle passes to Cersei, granting her direct communication with Arishem, who reveals the Eternals' true purpose, to protect Earth until there are enough humans to feed Tiamat, the proto-celestial germinating in the planet's core, who will be born in an event called the Emergence, which will destroy the Earth. The Eternals aren't cool with this. And after Gilgamesh is killed by Crow, they make a plan to merge and form a Unimind with the power to stop Tiamat. But Icarus reveals he's known about the Emergence for centuries and killed Ajak when she went soft. He takes off, followed by Sprite, and Kingo also leaves, unwilling to face Arishem. The Eternals battle at the island volcano where Tiamat is emerging. Eventually, Crow is killed by Thena, while Sprite and Icarus are subdued, and all the Eternals form the Unimind, allowing Cersei to transmute Tiamat into marble. A guilt-ridden Icarus flies into the sun, and Cersei uses her fading Unimind power to turn Sprite into a human. Thena, Druig, and Makari leave Earth, while Cersei, Phastos, and Kingo stay, but they're dragged into space by a displeased Arishem, who vows to judge humanity based on the Eternals' memories. And then, in a mid-credit scene, Thena, Druig, and Makari are visited by the Eternal Eros, the brother of Thanos, and his assistant, Pip the Troll.
One of 5 of One Direction.
Wait, and then is there another scene after that?
And then there's a post-credit scene where Cersei's human boyfriend, Dane Whitman, opens a chest inherited from his ancestors containing a magic sword before an unseen voice questions whether he's ready for it.
Okay.
Yeah, there's the annoying thing about writing this synopsis was that I had to leave out so much because I didn't even talk about Icarus and Cersei being a love thing. Sprite loves him too. Kingo's a Bollywood star.
Yeah.
There's so much I can't put in because there's too many characters.
Way too many characters.
Why?
Well, do you think that they should have done what they did with the other phases of the MCU, like say Avengers style, and had a movie just about Cersei and Icarus?
No.
And then there's the movie about these two people.
Here's the thing.
They could not have done that.
There's even more Eternals in the comics. So they could have just pared it down. Make this movie about 6 of them.
And this isn't an era of the Eternals that they're bringing to the stage. Each of these, there's probably 2 or 3 from different phases of Eternals throughout the decades. And so it's not like they took one particular team and we're putting it to the screen. They just chose 10 at seemingly random and made it kind of work. And
Not random.
Oh.
This started as a joke, I was going to say facetiously, but now it seems like maybe
deliver it.
Maybe this is the rationale. Most diverse movie I've ever seen in my life.
Oh,
for sure.
There literally was a part of the movie where I was like, I think they hit every base except an Arab guy. Oh wait, this guy's husband's Arab. There we go. They got everyone other than a Native American person.
Yeah.
They're there's a teenage person. There's a low hearing or deaf person. There's a gay person.
Mm-hmm.
There's
a mentally ill person.
There's every race. So there's a mentally ill person. There's literally
Who's the mentally ill person?
Well,
Thena.
Oh yeah, dementia. Yeah, of course.
Madweri. I don't know why I put an accent on that.
So
that was the name of the disease she has. That's
is that what they wanted?
I think that's definitely part of it.
I don't know if that's the exact reason why they had this many characters, but I think that maybe once they decided to have this many characters, they're like, oh, let's make it diverse.
Yeah, you might as well.
I don't think it was
they
like
could have done fewer
first.
characters and had them even more intersectional.
Yeah.
But I don't even think it's just the sheer amount of characters that is what the problem is. It's the way that they do it. They give you all 10 in the first scene. They give you okay, here's all 10's powers, and then you kind of know them. You get 5 scenes where you get to know a little bit about them, and then they all go away, and then you have to meet them again. And it's overwhelming, and it's not interesting, and you're not excited to meet each one. You're not excited to find out what they can do. Mm-hmm. It's all just kind of given.
So are you saying that you would prefer that they did it differently in broad strokes, or that scene? It's just that the scene by scene wasn't good.
I think broad strokes. I think you can do maybe your opening scene of a cool fight scene, but I think it would be way better if you don't know what they can all do. You don't know their characteristics until they're finding them, until they're on the A-line plot where they're seeking to gather the team to stop them. That's how you get to know them, is there, instead of through kind of side conversations of seeing through history.
Yeah.
So you want to go Stephen King's It style, the made-for-TV movie where you've got each kid has their own vignette and then they all come together?
Then it doesn't have to be a vignette. It can be like 3 people. They almost do it in this where they have Cersei, Sprite, and then
Icarus
joins. And then it's those three, and then they're going on the adventure through the people.
Yeah.
But they're interspicing, kind of going back to the past, showing these far distant pasts while they're also getting these people. And like, there's a way you could do that works, but I think if they just took what this movie is and reordered it so that we don't know the Eternals and we're meeting them as they're finding them, I think it'd be a lot less overwhelming, easier to grasp. And each time you discover their power, you're like, that's pretty cool.
We kind of got that with Kingo. At the beginning, I was like, oh, this famous comedian I recognize in this movie, sweet. What the hell? He doesn't have any lines.
Yeah.
And that was only true for the first 2 hours. Then he turned out to have tons of lines for the following 3 hours.
Right.
But I would say like he's probably my favorite character in this movie. And like
what?
Part of it is probably his like
Kingo?
Yeah.
I don't like the finger guns.
Gross.
But I'm not talking about his powers. I'm talking about like the
powers are sweet.
I think his powers are okay, but I think like the fact what they do with him, like he's clearly defined and like he kind of has like a little bit of an arc, and I like his assistant a fuck ton.
Hilarious.
The best character in the whole movie.
It was great. I mean, man, that's so funny. He was one of my least favorite characters.
Oh, interesting. I have mine ranked.
Oh, I did not. I did not.
He's number.
That's a David move. I didn't do that.
He's number one.
Such a David move.
No,
Who's number 10?
He was super annoying
Cersei.
to me.
She sucks.
But I feel like we should get back. I feel like we should get back to this because I also agree that the flashback thing also contributed to like the just confusing nature of the whole thing. Not like confusing, like I didn't get it, but just it was just jarring. It's just like, oh, now we're over here, now we're over here. But we should talk about the good stuff.
Yes,
we should talk about what we liked about it.
Here's the strongest thing this movie has. I was talking about tailwinds earlier. We'll get into them later, but headwinds. In a lot of this is kind of an origin Marvel movie. It's like the first Iron Man or first Spider-Man. In a lot of those movies, the struggle is you've got all this setup that's required to establish the characters and the origin story of the hero.
Yeah.
And that takes an hour. And then you've got to do, all right, well, who are they fighting in this movie? Who's the bad guy in this movie? And a lot of the time in phase one, there was a lot of like tacked on kind of weak bad guys.
Yeah.
But in this movie, it's really there's a lot of unity. It's super integrated where it's like the thing that you've been learning about, all the lore backstory you've been learning about, which is germane to who the Eternals are. There's Celestials. They populate the universe, da-da-da-da-da. All that ends up being the big bad.
Right.
They've got to stop the emergence of another Celestial. There's nothing tacked on. It's totally aligned with what we've already been learning. So to me, that was just like super chef's kiss on that.
Yeah, it was definitely cool to have this like the subversion of like, okay, we're on a mission, and it turns out that it's like
we're the bad guys.
We're the
baddies.
And the best part about it was really Thanos-like insofar as it being a morally ambiguous threat.
Yeah.
Right.
Like, oh crap, what side of this am I on?
Yeah.
Do I want to save lives or do I want to save lives?
Yeah.
I do appreciate how they kind of like they laid that out. It's really annoying when it's like this person just wants to blow up stuff because it's bad, and I felt that nuance of like, okay, we could save humanity and save the Earth from being destroyed, but that may stop other planets from being born in the future. Like, how many other lives are we going to stop from coming into existence?
And it's like the anti-Star Trek. It's the utilitarian philosophy of like the greatest good for the greatest number of people.
Yeah.
Right.
But wait, I really like these people. They're humans.
Well,
and so actually they're not going to do the greatest good for the greatest number.
I like how they're kind of staying consistent with the Marvel thing. Steve Rogers puts this idea out in Infinity War, I think, where he's like, we don't trade lives. And so it's like, okay, maybe by sparing humanity here, we're going to like stop other planets from being born, but like at the end of the day,
What if those planets just have like mice on them?
yeah, and it's like
You know?
at the end of the day, it's not justified to murder an entire planet in order to let other planets exist.
And we're getting the information that Celestials are so beneficial from Celestials, so it's kind of like a little bit of a flawed
it's
source.
like, can we trust the information?
I think I really like the idea of what they're doing. I don't think they quite bring it home.
No.
But like there could be an interesting angle where it's like, yeah, they're creating planets, but they exist only to be farmed for Celestials. So is that even good? Like, is that even real life?
Which is
I don't know.
I mean, that's a cool, I don't know. It's a good dilemma. It's a bit annoying to me because it's like a lot different than what the Celestials and the Eternals are doing in the comics. They really changed the lore in a big way.
Yeah.
I think it's an interesting take that they did on it because like, some of it's necessary. Like the Deviants, for example, aren't these just like predatory monsters in the comics? They're both the Eternals and the Deviants are offshoots of humanity. They are biological organisms, and unlike robots in this one. They're just fancy robots.
I didn't read them as robots in this. I read them as animalistic.
The Deviants? No, sorry. The Deviants aren't robots in the movie. The Eternals are robots in the movie.
Are they actually robots?
Well, I didn't
or
really
they...
read them as robots either. Like it's not like they're made of silicon. They're just created in like a kind of god factory.
Synthetic beings.
They're synthetic beings that don't age. Their bodies aren't.
In what way are they even synthetic? Like you're
not
talking
made of
about
cells.
a god who can just like create life and create planets of billions of life forms. One, he's just like, all right, these life forms on Earth, they're just going to organically emerge in some kind of like time delayed fashion, and these life forms I'm just going to make all at once. I think, what's the difference?
I think the idea is that they are life in the same way that like a sentient AI would be life, but it's not organic. Like they're not like made of cells. They can't, I don't know if, I mean, apparently they can reproduce. I don't know. I'm just saying that like in this one, they are like expressly created from like whatever star stuff. Like they don't come from a line. They're not like genetically modified humans. They are, I made this Eternal out of
interestingly,
material.
the Deviants are both. The Deviants started that way, and then somehow this god didn't know that they could evolve. Oh shit, they're evolving. And then I lost control of them.
Yeah. My point being that the Deviants and the Eternals are far removed from their comic origins, and that was interesting. But it, I don't know, it makes it kind of complicated, and the lore gets kind of messy because of it. Yeah.
It's interesting that we're in the era of MCU stuff where we kind of just accept it. Like I haven't heard that many like people being outraged online about how different it is from the comics. People just kind of accept
because who's a fan of the Eternals?
It's too obscure. It's too like actual Marvel fanny.
That's fair.
It's too,
no, but I mean like,
I shouldn't even use the word actual, but it's just a particular. It's just,
but I think
it just doesn't have Wolverine.
We live in an era where everyone wants to be an expert. So if you see some super nerd tweet about, oh, they fucked it up, someone's gonna retweet it, and everyone's gonna be like, oh yeah, I always knew that. I always knew that like the Eternals were different than this, but maybe not. I don't know.
I've seen people be like fans of like the new gods in the DC universe, which is like Orion and like Darkseid and stuff, and like Apocalypse, and they have like a sister planet with like a bunch of characters there. I've seen like people kind of be fans of that, but this is the first I've actually heard of the Eternals, other than that like Marvel had a property that was sort of similar to that comic run on the DC side.
Oh, I first learned about it during my research. I was trying to get caught up because Endgame was coming up, and I hadn't seen Infinity War, but I also hadn't seen anything. And I was I went to Vegas or something. I was waiting for like a family member to get her hair did, and I was just literally on Wikipedia clicking back as far as I needed to go, and that brought me to like Celestials. It brought me to like Lady Death and everything, just so I could get caught up on like what? Because if you read about Thanos, he's a deviant, isn't he?
Yes.
No, he's an Eternal.
Well, he's
with
an
a deviant syndrome.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's right.
But that's basically what the Deviants are. They're
but not in the movies now.
Not in the movies. In the comics, Deviants and Eternals are largely similar, but the Deviants have weird mutations that make them look weird, and they
kind of ableist.
It is a little bit.
Maybe that's why they changed it.
Maybe.
Yeah.
It's like a little eugenicsy. Like, these aberrations, they're the bad guys.
No. And Thanos is extra powerful because he's an Eternal who then augmented his abilities with like science and magic and all that stuff. So, I wanted to say something, but I forgot what it was.
We don't want to.
Oh, the good stuff. The good stuff in the movie. The good stuff. So one of the things that I really appreciate, I thought the effects looked really cool. I think that the design of all their different powers being kind of thematically linked with these like Doctor Strange like
glyphs and stuff,
like glowing glyphs and stuff.
Glyphs, good word choice for that's exactly.
I thought it was I thought it was. I appreciated that. I thought the design of the Deviants was kind of generic, but like.
Well, I don't know. When Crow starts like morphing out into a more humanoid form, that was good.
I was really into that. I'm like, oh, where are they going to take this?
Yeah.
They take it nowhere.
And then the
no,
scene
for now,
I'm so mad about that scene, and maybe, but like, I think Marvel has done a really good job balancing this movie and franchise, and this movie totally fucks that up. This movie totally exists to be like, wait, we're doing this stuff for the franchise. Because Crow, like, maybe they do bring him back, but he is fucking garbage in this movie, and like, there's so much potential there. And we're even talking about like the Celestials, how well tied in it is, and that's great. But I feel like thematically there could have been a better exploration in terms of like how Crow views this whole thing, and you kind of get like a second of that. But he should have been like, oh, you see, like we're not so different. Like something.
I thought they were actually going to fight together against the Celestials.
I was like, that would be so cool.
Yeah, well, especially at the end scene where he just kind of like comes out of the water, and it's like, oh, I'm here too. How did I get here? I'm just.
It also
I was in the water.
Bothered me that one Eternal took him out at the end. It was just Thena. I was like. And meanwhile,
what do you mean?
He fights one-on-one with Thena,
so.
and she chops his head into many pieces.
That's true. I thought it was kind of a cool twist around though that like you think that she's just kind of giving in because she has this mental illness, and then she's like, just kidding, bitch.
It was okay, but it didn't feel like it was like as good of a payoff as it could have been.
But still, like in prior scenes, when he was weaker, he fought more Eternals at once.
That's true.
Then he absorbed one of the stronger Eternals' powers.
Yeah.
And then later could just get taken out by Athena. It didn't make sense. Meanwhile, Kingo, if memory serves, wasn't present at the whole climax. He just was like, I'm out, and he leaves.
Yeah. And then they accept it. Well, he says it. He's like, I don't feel strongly enough. He's like the ultimate centrist. He's like, I don't feel strong enough either way, so I'm just not going to participate.
But why?
No, he's not a centrist. He's like, I still feel loyalty to Arishem. He was like, I'm not going to like fight to stop it because he doesn't think that he could stop them.
But why did they put that in the movie?
Honestly, maybe it was because like the representation, like there's lots of representation. Maybe they wanted to, because the way that he phrased it was so weird. He was like, I don't want to fight you guys, like, but at least, I'm gonna, what is it? He says something about his beliefs. He's like, I'm not gonna force you to respect my beliefs.
Maybe they wanted to show someone like a centrist or something.
Yeah, but
like
then
but then why not just have him go into the cave with Athena and then have two Eternals fight Crow? Like,
come
keep
back
him in the movie.
minute.
He's a great character.
Well, and that's what's so weird is that they bring him back with no like acknowledgement that he ditched them. He's just like kind of back at the like final scene post fight. I'm like, excuse me,
like, I guess it all turned out okay.
Yeah, he's like,
apathy.
I guess I did the right thing.
That was very.
Just wait in my room until it's over.
Another positive thing of this movie, kind of on the line of design, is the scale is fucking. It works, man. Those Celestials. When it's the tiny little pixel people and they're huge, I was like, wow, these things are
Celestials
massive.
are super cool.
It really made them massive. I mean, like
giant holes in their heads, whatever those are for.
Yeah. In the comics, they can like stand on a planet and stuff. Like they're a lot smaller. They're like bigger than a city, but they are, they're not this big. They're like bigger than planets in this one. And you really felt that.
Yeah, I like the transitions in and out too when like she gets the sphere in her throat. And then it'll like transition into seeing him, like the way the kind of glyphs come across and it goes from 2D plane to 3D.
Yeah.
And it's really effective. I saw this movie in 3D. I didn't mean to.
I know. Same.
Me too. I hated it.
But I found
it does suck, doesn't it?
That transition in particular. Or I just found that transition in particular from 2D plane to 3D, like really, like I felt
like this
it
out
much
of body
deeper.
interdimensional communication. Yeah, it totally worked for me too.
Yeah. I wish the movie did a bit more of that. I was kind of hoping for the weird abstract stuff going to the movie, and they kind of delivered a little bit with the jumping through the eras and kind of like, oh, we're controlling history. Oh, I'm going to make a steam engine. No, they can't handle that. You need a plow. Like that stuff. But then they don't really go deep enough into it. They don't do any interesting exploration. It's just sort of candy.
Yeah, show me somebody who was like being treated as a god and taken advantage of. Yeah. I would have seen. I wanted to see Icarus on the top of a temple, like with people at his feet for a bit, and be like, "Hey, man, this isn't cool." And say, whatever. I like it.
Well, that's kind of like where Druig goes with it, where he's like, no, screw this. I'm going to save humanity from themselves.
Not really, though, because he's just making like a peaceful utopian commune.
It is, but they're basically under his control, like.
But are they, or does he just intervene when they start fighting and stuff?
He does, but that's taking away free will that would maybe otherwise lead them to like be like, I have to get out of here or whatever.
But it just doesn't make sense.
They're like, I don't fight with anybody and everything's good all the time because it's artificially made so by this guy.
No,
they're in these villages. They show them in these villages and they're using their powers with people all the time. And I'm like, would these people actually just be like, Cersei's great, or like Ajax great. She comes over, she heals us, she shows us how to do pottery. It's awesome. Would they do that, or would they just be like, "We are building temples for you"?
Yeah. I think, but that's that's another cool thing about the movie that I think I wanted to bring up was this idea that like the deviants and the Eternals like all these things that we see on pottery and stuff, where it's like the Chimera. It was this mythological monster. It was part snake and part lion and part eagle or whatever. They made a rendering of it, but really it was these deviants because the deviants show up and they are kind of like amalgamations of animals and stuff.
Those archaeology retcons are cool.
Yeah, that was cool. And like the Eternals, obviously there are allusions to them being these gods. Like people like made legends about them and stuff because they did see them. So we didn't see it like in the moment where they were like, oh, you're a god, I'm going to worship at your feet. But I thought that was a kind of a cool idea.
Well, and I think they almost got there with the fact that like you see the Eternals' relationship with humanity sort of fray. At the beginning, they're very close, and then it gets further and further. And the final Eternals human interaction you see before like the modern era is them and the Conquistadors versus the like the Latin Americans.
The Mayans.
They wouldn't have been Latin because
they weren't Latin. The Mayans.
Yeah.
And I think that's a cool scene where he's like, I'm done this fighting, and it's like, oh, they've advanced so much, and they're all kind of like, oh, how do we feel? But they just. it always feels like they're pulling their punches on the interesting ideas in this movie. Because like they could have gone so much darker, so much weirder in exploring like how humanity has grown throughout the history. You could do like an interesting look, but it doesn't feel like Disney's interested in posing any challenging questions. And for other MCU movies, that works. All you need is like right and wrong and like bravery and honesty. But it's like here we're like kind of delving into stuff that could be like harder to tackle.
See, well, I don't know, because Druig is like, this is genocide. And I was like, whoa, Disney, a little on the nose. I mean, I agree with you, but like pretty political statement there.
I think that it did make political statements and it did dive into these issues, but it comes back to the same problem that this movie has, which is just that it's too much. Yeah. I feel like for each of these characters, honestly, I was surprised because when I went back and kind of thought about it, I was like, we know at the end of the movie, we know who each of these characters is. We know kind of what they're about. Each of them has almost like a journey. Yeah. It's just that, and questions that they ask, and like there are philosophical and moral dilemmas that many of them face. The problem is that there's just too many characters, and you're trying to squish in each of these stories. Like even Crow, like we were talking about him and how it's like, oh, it's kind of lame how they didn't explore it more. But when he kind of gains sentience in that moment, and like he talks about, he's like, I have a motivation. I have a reason for being a character in this movie. Yeah. Like we have been, I'm coming up from the ashes into something that now recognizes that I've been abused by this celestial. And so it's like, all that stuff is there in the movie. So I give it points for that. Yeah. But the mistake they make is to try and put too much in the movie. It's not that there's an absence; it's that there's too much, and then it gets muddled.
I want to just finish the one point about like when Druig was like, "It's genocide." I was like, "Okay." I mean, yes. It is, but I was just like, it was just on the nose. However, I totally forgave it 2 minutes later because he walks away from that scene being like, I'm intervening, and this is what I'm stopping this genocide. And at that point, that statement wasn't just a Disney executive making a political statement. It was a character-driven statement, and at that point, I was like, that totally works.
Right.
I agree.
So that kind of like, that fits into this whole idea of like, there are things that Druig cares about and that Ikaris cares about and that Cersei cares about. We get it at the end of the movie. But it's like, it's just these little... I think I agree with what you were saying earlier, that maybe we should have just started in present day, or maybe like a little bit of a flashback in the beginning, and then have the whole movie just be in present day, and we have allusions to things that happened in the past instead of like discrete flashbacks. I
just think this movie has no pacing. There's no ebb and flow, like you said. It's really fucking dense, but not in like a interesting way. It's just overwhelming. It feels like every scene is I wrote down every scene is a turning point scene, and it's like every scene like a really big thing is happening, but like you just kind of like it all becomes white noise at some point because when the volume is at max the whole movie, it's
because your ship ain't got no rudder. This is the problem is really you don't know what the movie's about until an hour in. There's all this setup at the beginning, but there's nothing driving it. True. Like if you think about Batman Begins or even The Prestige, Batman Begins has tons of flashbacks of the first half. But they're all driven, like, oh, Bruce, like, why are you afraid? What frightens you? Goes back to the bats. Like, you know what it's all getting at. In this movie, you don't know what the dramatic question of the movie is other than, okay, there's an inciting incident where a deviant is here. Oh, that sounds bad, and the Eternals don't want that to happen. Yeah. We kind of get the sense that Cersei's the main character, but it's not the lock-in of the movie where you have a hero with a goal, with obstacles and stakes. Yeah. Doesn't happen until... they find Ajax dead and the sphere goes into Cersei. Right. Yeah. That's the point where like, okay, life will never be the same. Now she's the leader. They have to stop the emergence. Like she interfaces with the god, the celestial at that point. She knows that they have to stop the emergence. Now we know what we're going to expect. And that's when Act 2 starts. But that is over an hour in. I checked my watch. And up until that point, it's just flashbacks, just seeing the Eternals like interact with each other, but for no real reason. We don't know why we're watching it.
Right.
I would love to know the original script of this movie, how much it's been rearranged. Because I have a feeling that this was like one of the most Disney interfered movies of the MCU, and I have a feeling that scene probably did exist in an earlier script way earlier in the script because that's just basic what it should be.
I don't know though. I don't know if it's Disney imposing on like this good filmmaker. I think that there is a problem that we are seeing with Disney in particular, but also other studios or whatever, that they are taking that like there's a cool director come on the come up. You know, they're like they make this really cool indie movie. It's low budget. they don't really expect it to do well, but then everyone kind of sees it and they're like, "Oh, this is really good. Look, check out this little hidden gem." And then this big studio is like, "This person has promise. We're going to give them unlimited budget and give them this giant epic movie to make."
And she has a screenwriting credit.
Does she?
I believe so.
Yeah, well, exactly. And so I'm like, I think this is just an example of this phenomenon where, like, we need to stop doing this. We need to stop taking these, like, indie filmmakers that are making little gems of good films and giving them freaking giant tentpole franchises.
Well,
because here's the deal. I can totally get it. Like, you have a focus on your small movie, right? That you are limited by your budget. You're like, okay, I can only do a certain amount of things, so I'm going to make sure I do a few things really well. But then they're like, you can do whatever you want. And they're like, okay, that means that I can do all the things that I always wanted to do in one movie, and there's no limits. So I'm going to have 10 characters, and then we're going to have represent all these people, and they're all going to have motivations, and they're all going to have stories, and blah, blah, blah.
Oh, you ever done a fight scene before?
Yeah, oh boy. There's some bad fight scenes in this movie.
What, really?
Yeah, I think that first one is so boring. I think like there's a lot. I think the only one I think that's good is at the compound where they fight the deviants. And it's like kind of dusky. I think that's the only fight I was like, this is pretty cool.
I wish there were more fight scenes, because I feel like I'm not gonna lie, I was like 20 minutes late for this movie.
Really?
Yeah, because I don't know. There's a lot of
including trailers. That's like an hour late.
Oh no, sorry. I actually don't know how much I missed. I came in when they were like with the Babylonians.
Oh, that's right at the beginning.
Oh, okay.
You didn't miss much.
Okay, so I just basically missed the first fight scene, but
it was bad.
The scene in the compound. Then they're fighting the deviants later, and he's like flying around, eye lasers in the sky, pretty cool.
No.
My favorite part is the Flash versus Superman, where Makari versus Akaris, where like the super speed versus and she like I think that's always
that
an
character
interesting.
got sidelined. I like her. Makari is a cool
They don't
character.
do enough.
The actor is super cool.
Yeah.
She was I think she was in Sound of Metal.
Oh, maybe.
I think she's in. I think I saw her doing sign language in another movie. Is she just a deaf actress, or like an actress who at least is in the deaf community in some way?
And she's great, but they just don't do enough with her.
I think it was totally awesome just to have a like random
Totally.
American Sign Language speaker in the movie. Except that did actually pull me out. There's a little nitpick. One of the scenes in like ancient Babylonia, she was speaking sign language and she said something, the word time, and points at her wrist, which is the sign for time. And I'm like, do they have wristwatches? No, they don't. Okay.
Yeah.
Well, but I think that's Druig is like translating for her and various.
So maybe it's eternal ASL.
I don't think she's doing ASL to the Babylonians. I think she's
doing it amongst themselves, but like, unless like, what's the dude's name? Fastius or whatever. Unless he made a watch.
Yeah, but they're speaking English. Like obviously, you know.
That's why it's a nitpick, rather.
Yeah. Marvel, in any Marvel movie, you can't think about languages at all because all the aliens speak English. Everyone speaks English. Yeah.
I want to go back and talking about where I think the blame lies, because you think that it's more on Disney choosing the wrong director and giving her too much power. I think yes, for sure that's an element, but I really do think that where this movie suffers for me is when it feels like for the first hour it's kind of just like floating in space, and like you said, it's not really sure what it's going to be, and then it starts to click into place as an MCU movie, and then by the end of the movie, I'm like, this is just like, I feel like I just watched an MCU movie. That's fine, and that's where I feel like the Disney was like, okay, we're gonna rein this in and like make it to be like we're having the scenes at the right point, we're having the characters do the right thing at the right time, and that's when the movie becomes so fucking uninteresting to me. And that movie, if it was that from the start, could have been fine, or if it was like this weird, messy, like Snyder movie, that could have been fine too. But I think because it's like floaty to pointed, it's just like an uninteresting movie.
Yeah.
And if like that's what I was saying, I want the Zhao cut, because like I want a 4.5 hour version of this where like they have the time to go into the character, they reshape it, just like the Snyder cut. Like, who thought the 4 hour version of the Justice League would be better? But it's way fucking better, because like there's just time. There's time to breathe, time to think, time to feel. And this movie has none of that.
There probably is a 4 hour cut, because when there's a point where they're like in ancient Babylonia, and then they cut ahead like 100 years to Icarus getting married to Circe in India, and that's the only time they're in that era. They just like, I'm like, why did they even bother going forward in time? Why didn't they just get married in Babylonia where they were already there? That makes me think that there were other scenes in India that they got rid of.
Wait, was that definitely in India?
They didn't, on the screen, it doesn't say India. It says like a region of India, or like a I don't recall.
Yeah, I didn't even catch that.
It's like an Indian wedding. It's India.
Oh, okay.
So that makes me think that there are other scenes, and I really hope there are, because this, to me, didn't have any of the strengths that Chloe Zhao demonstrated in Nomadland, which was such a personal movie with great relationships and interactions.
Yeah,
but
none of that.
They suck in this one.
It really sucks because like this could have been great as a miniseries, or like I mean, I wouldn't want to watch a 4-hour version of this, but like a miniseries would be great. It's kind of funny though because like I guess Marvel I think they're kind of put off of miniseries because they did Inhumans.
Oh yeah,
which is also a title, a property that's kind of like related to the Eternals franchise, and like the Inhumans were mutants that were kind of like the Eternals made them, sort of.
Sure.
Or they like founded their colony or what. Anyways, that was also a miniseries with a lot of characters, a lot of different superpowers, and they're kind of like on the moon or Mars or something. Anyways. Maybe they're off. Maybe they put off of doing miniseries, but this would be perfect. There's tons of characters. They all have. They all got stories, as we said. Just not enough time.
I wonder if they're gonna like bail massively on this franchise, or if they're gonna try and like recover double down, and like either have them show up in different places or do what they can. But like,
well, I don't think that any of these characters will become beloved. The one who had the best shot of that was Gilgamesh. They killed him. He was hilarious.
But I could see them bringing him back as like some dark form of himself. Like
I was
still,
annoyed by
he was a bit of just a basic brawler, though. His power was kind of what was basic.
Some of his acting was just not great.
Oh man, the most I felt in this movie was when he's holding that cast iron pie and it falls. That was the deepest sadness I felt.
To me, it was too distracting. As soon as that pan went vertical, I was like, okay, we're all watching this pie fall out, and then it kind of just distracted me from the actual emotion of the scene.
I gotta say, it's just so interesting when like we watch movies and like David, you and I just like feel like we have the same rating.
Yeah.
But it's like
literal opposite.
If you look at the bar graph of like the things that we like in the movie, they're just literal inverted. Like at that point where the pie drops, I'm like, okay. Like it seemed like a slapstick comedy moment. It's like he just learned that Ajax, his leader, is dead.
Yeah.
And he's like having a moment and we're sad for him and we're like, oh my gosh. Because I feel like up to that moment too, we hadn't had enough of this sort of like gravity of like, oh my God, we are immortal, superpowered beings, and one of us has died.
Yeah.
Like that's a big deal.
But didn't that pie look really fucking good?
Yeah, but that's why it's supposed to. It read as a comedy moment, and I thought that was
a comedy moment.
It reads as a comedy moment because
it completely undercuts the tension and the drama.
He's holding it normally, and then his arm sinks, and you think that it's gonna fall as soon as his arm sinks, but it doesn't. It subverts your expectations. Then it falls off later, and so it's totally hilarious.
It's like, what am I supposed to feel here? Like, I understand that, like, sometimes you need comic relief to subvert a tense situation, or like, oh my God, something happened, and it's like crazy. But this is like someone died, and you're mourning the death of a close friend, and then something funny happens. It's weird.
I guess for me, at that point, it's disconnected so thoroughly from the movie that like it was nice to. Nice just like to feel anything. I was like, it was almost. I guess it's like circling on ironic, like not quite.
Yeah.
And so I was just like, oh, I'm alive. My heart's still beating.
I guess I still had hope that the movie might be good.
Yeah.
At that point,
I agree. I think Gilgamesh was the most likable character. I'm surprised you guys don't like Kingo. I thought he was fun.
I do. I do like Kingo.
Yeah. I enjoyed his smarminess when he's kind of been a human. He's like, oh, I'm the longest running Bollywood star. And he's like, my great-great-grandfather, my great-grandfather, my father, me.
I feel like Kingo started off completely with the wrong foot on me, because on the wrong foot with me, because I guess Kumail Nanjiani can't sing or can't dance.
Yeah.
So they like gave him like he's supposed to be the star of this whole like music and dance production, and he doesn't. He barely does.
Yeah,
anything.
that doesn't really make sense.
He just does this like smirk and like is like. He doesn't even seem like he's good at the moves, at the Bollywood moves.
Yeah, that's true.
It's like, have you never done this in your life? I guess
he's American.
Doesn't bother me.
Yeah, but I don't know. He's got an accent. Like his parents are immigrants. Like,
but he's not a Bollywood
actor. It seemed like he
actor.
didn't pick up on he hasn't been to many weddings or something. I don't know.
It didn't bother me too much. It was like, it's for comedy. It's not particularly important. I agree.
So that was like made me feel a little weird. And then it's like very clear that he's like a douchebag.
Yeah.
Like he is not likable. And so then he has all these one-liners and he's there for comic relief, but I'm not laughing at him because I'm like mad at him. I'm like, why are you such a douchebag? Why are you so rude? And I feel like Kumail Nanjiani is best when we are on his side. Like he kind of works in this one. He's like this buff guy, and he's like, this is the first time he's played this sort of like intense leading man, super confident, arrogant. And in the past, all of his roles have been kind of like Like,
but he's always confident
endearing.
and sarcastic, though. Like, I mean, like Silicon Valley, he's like a douche. He's just a nerdy douche.
Yeah, but he's the underdog, right? He's punching up in many of those situations, and in this one, he seems like he's punching down. Like he's on top of the world, and he's making all these jokes, and I'm like, I'm not on your side with this.
I guess for me,
and then later. He makes himself even more of a douchebag because he's like, yeah, I don't care about humanity, even though that's the whole reason for my success and my good life up till now.
I had an issue with that for multiple Eternals, where they're making the decision whether or not to help out or to join up or whatever, and it seemed like they made the opposite decision to what I think. Like, for example, Phastos, he's like, look, I don't want nothing to do with saving humanity. I've made a life here with humans who I care about. And then they redeem it because his husband comes out and be like, what are you doing? If you like us, why wouldn't you save us? It was just like, duh.
Yeah.
Like that was just stupid.
Well, it was kind
of. And Druig had a
understandable.
similar thing.
Yeah.
But I don't know. I could see Druig. The thing with Druig was like, why would he hesitate? Because if he cares so much about peace, then why wouldn't he try to save these humans right away?
Yeah.
Maybe if they had a scene where he was like, you're right. Look what humans have done left to their own devices. Climate change, human sex trafficking, all the evil things in the world.
Yeah. See,
rogue capitalism.
I feel like Druig...
But he doesn't say that shit.
No. Because, I kind of get it from him, though, that vibe, that cynical vibe.
Someone should have said that, though. Someone should have been like, yeah, let the emergence happen. Wipe these guys out. We'll get better life elsewhere.
I mean, they kind of like allude to it with like Phastos being like kneeling after the bomb is dropped on Hiroshima or Nagasaki or whatever it is. Oh, sorry, guys. But Druig I thought was interesting because he makes the decision to help humanity in his mind. It's helping them by like controlling them and stopping them from fighting. But I think it comes from a cynical viewpoint where he's like, we were sent to protect these people and like not do anything, but like they can't even take care of themselves, so I'm going to do it. And it's like he's got this sort of like confrontational, cynical arrogance about it, where he's like, nothing can be done. So I thought that was interesting. I just thought that Kingo's take on it would like doesn't make any sense. Phastos' like refusal to not help doesn't make a lot of sense. Although I will say the Druig versus Kingo interaction, that was the one time where I was like, yeah, that was a great funny line from Kingo where he's like, Druig just calls him like an actor or whatever, and he's like, I've directed some things too.
Oh, that's hilarious.
Oh yeah, what? Some internet stuff? How many views? It's like, I don't really
Actually, the moment that I thought was the funniest was the second callback to the saliva beer. He's drinking it again. He spits it out again. Oh, can we get rid of the saliva beer?
That's true. That's
true. It was amazing.
I think I understood Kingo because to me, all his shittiness just comes from a place of insecurity, and like maybe that doesn't make sense because he's an eternal being.
But he's not the leader of
he's
the
not.
Eternals.
Yeah, he's not
so
the
it's all
leader
relative.
of the and so I always found like his douchiness kind of read like that, and it's kind of a basic characterization where it's like the most insecure person is the loudest, the most arrogant.
Yeah.
But it worked for me on that level.
I think the like getting out because of his beliefs thing kind of solidified it. Like I think up until that point, I was kind of like, I don't know how I feel about Kingo. You know, it's kind of rubbing me the wrong way. And like, if there was like a more satisfying end to his arc, if they had an arc, that would have been, I think, would have turned things around. But instead, he does this thing where seemingly out of nowhere, I don't really see a reason for him out of all the Eternals to be like, no, I think Arisham's right.
Yep.
You know?
I agreed.
And then he just pieces out.
I agree.
Was there like a scheduling conflict or something like that? Like, I honestly have no idea why he was gone.
Maybe it would have made the fight too.
Maybe it's a
equal.
deleted scene, and it's like they just didn't think it was that important enough of him apologizing or coming back or doing something. They're just like, we need to cut another 3 minutes from this movie.
I feel like another confusing thing was the fact about their varying power levels and how like Icarus was the most powerful, but then also Athena seemed to be like super powerful. And we don't really answer that question of like which one of them is more powerful.
And it pisses me off.
Gilgamesh is the most strong.
Yeah.
Like, what's the god's name? Aramesh?
Yep.
Arishem.
Arishem.
Celestial.
Why? Whatever.
Let's
call them gods, Riley, because this is why it's not allowed to be seen in the Middle East.
I thought you were talking about an eternal because like they're seen as gods.
No, celestial.
Yeah.
Why? I mean, for the sake of an interesting comic book, it's cool they have all different powers, but I mean, I would just make a standard. I would just make them all Superman. Icarus is Superman. Just make them all awesome.
So yeah,
why would you make one so obviously useless?
In the comics, they all have the capability to kind of like learn new abilities. Like they all have the capability to, do any of the things that the other people can do, but they can specialize.
Oh my
so
God.
Like your job is to kill deviants. okay, I will fly around and shoot lasers out of my eyes.
Yeah.
Sweet, you will be good at this job. I will be an illusionist and tell stories. It's like, you're
like,
really checking out.
So that's the, I mean, Sprite is like a trickster in the comics. She's kind
of like the Loki.
Yeah, so she's like doing illusions, the same kind of thing as Loki. And that's because in the comics it makes it a little bit more sense because they've chosen to specialize in the various powers that they have based on their personalities or whatever. But in this one, it's just kind of like, I can't fly, but you can.
Yeah.
It's like, well, you could fly. You just, yeah.
Here's a cynical take. Do you think that they did it this way where they have like the very diverse cast with all the different powers so that they can then be like, oh, you can learn the powers and just pick the people that kind of are more successful at reaching an audience?
Let the audience pick the
decide.
favorites.
Yeah.
Well, I'm not picking Icarus. That guy was totally one note, hey?
He sucked. He's
So
he's number
boring.
9
Pretty
on my
boring.
list.
The coolest thing about him is that he's kind of like
Irish
Superman.
accent. Oh.
No. Well, I think the betrayal is kind of fun. It's like kind of fun to have a character that turns against them.
I didn't hate him. I just wish he had kind of more range. The most he did was like scrunch his face up and go, one time.
Yeah, I think that's what it
when
is.
you find out that he killed Ajax, you're not like, oh no. You're like, okay.
Yeah, because it's like he's kind of the stoic, like nothing burger
He
the
was
whole time.
stoic.
Yeah.
Like they could have had the relationship with him and Cersei be like this aeon-spanning epic, like
Yeah.
with a ton amount of like into the foundation or in the movie The Fountain. In The Fountain, there's like he's in his little spaceship and his wife's a tree at this point, and their love is so
100%.
deep, and it's like so complex.
The face when your wife's a tree.
You know, he's eating pieces of her bark to stay alive. It was just so much more epic than like,
Totally.
we dated for 7,000 years, and he just like wore a petticoat and scowled.
Well, and, and the fact that
lame.
you are first introduced to the romance by her explaining that that's her ex to Jon Snow, and so you don't even start off.
Jon Snow.
Yeah, you don't even like start off with him being like,
Poor
oh,
Kit
that's like
Harington.
the best love story ever, the most epic like eternal love story ever. It's just like, oh, it's just like her ex, who's we already know is a douche from what she said.
Yeah,
I found like knowing that Kit Harington existed and that they were kind of in love just made that love story not feel that real in a way. Yeah,
I wasn't invested at all.
I wasn't invested in any love story.
I think
it was just messy. It was more noise.
Yeah, you kind of mentioned it, but I think the biggest part of making Icarus. The biggest reason why Icarus seemed kind of lame to me is because his performance was really wooden. Like and I'm not entirely blaming that on Richard Madden. It might be like a director's choice or whatever. But like if he had a moment where he was like breaking down and like we could visibly see the divide on his face of like, do I stay loyal to my family or do I follow orders? And it's like the way that plays out is him just kind of like standing there with a stone face, no expression, just being like, we have to do what we have to do. But like if we saw the emotion of it, we see a little bit at the end where
so little
he is subdued. He gets to Cersei and she is like transmuting Tiamat into marble, and he's like, I don't even know. Like now decision is like I could maybe stop it, but I'd have to kill her basically. Yeah. And so then we see tears on his face, and like, okay, there's a little bit there, but like we needed that, and then multiply it a little.
He
bit.
almost got me when he was like, Cersei, I'm yours. I was like, oh, that's kind of cute. Like I was into that scene.
I wonder if
I don't think it was an Irish accent.
Maybe it's
I think it was like I don't want to place it because I'm gonna make the wrong decision, but it's not Irish.
What's this dude's
What's
name?
his name? Druig is Irish.
That actor misplaced in this movie.
I liked him.
So
I like that actor.
Yeah.
I really liked the actor and I really liked his character, but again, I think the main problem is that he just got swallowed up by the other
I think so too.
actors, by the other characters, and like I really liked his whole like mysterious. I'm kind of a bad boy, mysterious.
Was his accent in and out?
I think that he has this sort of like they didn't make an attempt to make anybody do an accent, so I think that his natural accent is probably just like Irish and kind of like softened a little bit.
Yeah.
Richard Madden, by the way, is Scottish.
There you go.
There we go.
Cersei, I'm yours.
Cersei,
I wonder if
Cersei, I love you. What Eternals.
I think a big problem with the
Glasgow
acting in
for
this
sure.
movie is that the direction seems to be to have it all be kind of understated and more internal. Like all the actors, I think, do
Internals.
The internals, they all do okay. And like, but you think about Cersei and Icarus in particular, like they're not acting out. They're low energy acting, not like lazy, but just keeping it in. And I think that works with other Chloe Zhao movies where you have more time to breathe with those characters, to go up and down with those characters. Whereas I think this movie would be way better served if all the external was just way higher energy.
Especially with Cersei, like, what does she want? What does she want? What is her arc?
Yep.
what is her I Want song at the
Honestly,
beginning of this Broadway play, you know?
I heard someone say that she's the main character of the movie, and I was like, what?
She's obviously supposed to be the protagonist.
You're the leader.
I don't even think that's obvious.
It's obvious. Well, it may not be obvious, but she is supposed to be.
What's her journey?
She gets we meet her first. She gets the most screen time. She's the chosen one, and she's instrumental to the climax, and she has the biggest change because she becomes
like
the
fair
leader.
enough, I guess. If you
she's the protagonist.
If gun to your head, you have to choose a protagonist. I can see that argument, but like after watching the movie, I did not walk out of there being like, that was the story of Cersei.
Well, this is exactly proving my point. She's a bad protagonist.
What's her arc? What does she learn through the movie that allows her to have the power to stop the fucking Eternal?
In all these Marvel movies, a lot of times they're iconic characters. You know, Batman starts and ends the movie the same, usually.
More or less.
But there's usually some kind of growth.
There's some kind of growth.
Especially in the origin story. And this was an origin. They had a chance. We don't know who these characters are. She could have started one way and ended the other way, but she didn't.
But that's the art of crafting a protagonist journey, is keeping the character at their core the same, but having them learn something that like changes the way that they'll act in the future.
For example, in this movie, we get this like negative image of everyone around Cersei being like, yo, Icarus, you weren't chosen to be the leader. Or like, who's supposed to be the leader? Cersei's the leader.
Supposed to be Cersei.
We never had a scene at the beginning of the movie where she's like, I don't want to be the leader. I shouldn't be the leader. And then by the end of the movie, she embraces being the leader. Like, that would be an arc.
Marvel, we're offering rewrite services.
Eternals. The Eternals.
I like the idea.
Tune it up? No, Eternals.
Sequel.
And then number 3 is 3 Eternals.
Yeah, 3 Eternals.
I like the idea of the internals, and then it's like this movie, but with enough time spent on their.
That'd be way better.
Yeah.
Honestly, it has
narration. It's this with narration.
Yeah.
This voiceover.
It's this with a bunch of like Asian cinema style internal monologues where we hear voiceover and they're just like looking into the distance, being like, oh.
Or Scorsese style. Now, by this point, I was pretty sure I was the strongest Eternal, but I was going to let Drew do his thing.
Now, Big Jimmy was the boss of those parts.
That's right. She looks like a kid, but she can really roll with the big dogs.
In those days, you could buy a 5-cent candy for a penny.
Ajax was like the Eternal's mama. We gotta stop.
5-cent candy?
Salma Hayek.
Yeah, she was in this movie, I guess.
They do not do enough. Man, they really failed, in my opinion, when she's first dead. I was like, who's that? They're like, because I couldn't really tell who the face was. So it took like 2 minutes into the scene of them crying to be like, oh, that's who that is.
I got it. That was
I was impressed in a movie with this many characters. How many times like that I kind of knew the characters' names by the end of it, because like this happens a lot in movies with a lot of characters where I'm just like, that guy and the guy with the glasses and blah blah blah, but I knew all their names.
I couldn't not Fastos. I couldn't learn Fastos.
And Makari, I didn't know either.
It's not both those. It's not a name that I like know. I could get behind Sprite. You know, it's a soft drink.
Yeah, but I'd say there's a few characters that are like they're not ill-defined. They're just kind of softly defined, and Ajax to me is one of them. Like Makari and Ajax, it's like they're kind of just superficially defined.
I don't know why they did that with Makari. Like she's just gone for most of the movie. Yeah. I mean, they have to like it's roll them out slowly because there's 9 of them.
Yeah, it's tough because I think that like each of them has characteristics, but they like you only get 1 or 2 characteristics.
Yeah,
and being deaf takes up.
Yeah,
or not deaf. Yeah, no, deaf.
Yeah,
that's right.
We don't even know if she's deaf. We just know she prefers to speak sign language. Really?
Yeah, we honestly don't know.
I was confused because at one point she's like,
when you break the sound barrier.
The Babylonians are like speaking, and she knows that. I think it's implied
that she says she can hear their vibration.
Yeah, but I think
vocal cords.
I think it's implied that she can tell that they're speaking, but maybe she can't tell what they're saying.
Oh, maybe.
No, I don't know. I was just making a joke that her eardrums blew from going so fast.
Because then it's like she's not deaf if she can just hear what everyone's saying. I don't
know.
It doesn't actually matter.
All right.
She was super strong. I wanted her to kick more ass.
Yeah.
She started kicking some ass. I don't know.
Yeah, that's what I'm saying. The Superman,
help her?
The Flash versus Superman fight was great. I love. Yeah.
They're so short though.
Yeah.
They give us enough.
You got the classic thing where it's like, I'm gonna run around a character many times to like make a tornado of dirt, but they do it too long. And then the character just grabs them.
Yeah.
Let's stop doing that scene.
It's so dumb. It's so dumb. Every time you do a circle around them, it's like all they have to do is just put their arm out and they'll just run into your arm.
I gotta wait for the right time.
No?
Yeah.
You know what's a hit pick for me in this one?
What's that?
Totally unexpected. Something from the trailers that I was like, I'm gonna hate that I turned out loving is Angelina Jolie as Thena.
Yeah, I agree.
I saw her in the trailer. I was like, okay, those lips, like
No.
you
The
just see-
fake blonde,
yeah, and this is actually a broader criticism. There's so much CG like glyphs and stuff like the powers that you can see the actors are just moving their hands. They're just waving their hands around, especially Fastos, just like moving his hands like this, and there's like all this shit around him, and you can tell the eye line's not perfect, and it's
The scene that like I really got that feeling was when she's in the cave like looking for Crow or whatever, and she's like holding up in one hand she's got the spear, and then in the other hand she's got like
that weird little round thing.
Yeah, like the
stupidest
spiked
weapon.
knuckles thing. And then she kind of like she hears something and she like readjusts, and then the spiked knuckle thing turns into a shield, but like her hand hasn't changed its position. I'm like, and in that moment, my brain just kind of like filtered out the constructs weapons thing, and I'm just like, I saw Angelina standing there with her hands
on a green screen. Yeah.
I'm play acting. I got weapons in my hands.
Man.
Like,
Yeah, so I saw that in the trailer. It's from one of the opening fight scenes where she like draws the bow back or something like
Right.
that. You can just tell she's just standing there with like holding nothing, and I was like, this looks like crap.
and
Especially
they turned it
since,
into not a bow. It's like a launcher
lance.
thing.
Yeah.
and then the costumes I thought were also pretty tacky looking.
Oh,
so
really?
I was just not into that. But then she was awesome. She was so reserved and subdued, and I liked what they did with her.
Yeah, I really like that character's arc, and the
Complex.
fact that like she has the dimension. They have one explanation for it, and then that's actually not a sufficient explanation when it's revealed. It's like, oh, actually they're just erasing our memory and hiding the real truth. But the
Right.
real truth is peeking out when you're.
Wait,
when
is
you're
that what
having
they're
these episodes. Yeah.
Oh, it
The
was like an
Celestials-
intentional thing?
Yeah, the Celestials erase their memory of each planet they've lived on.
Yeah, but I thought
She
that,
has this like imprint of the
she has an
stains
imprint-
of previous lives.
So that's what's coming through.
That's what it is.
And I thought
Gotcha.
that was cool. And I agree. Her performance is one of my favorites. I really felt it. And like her and Gilgamesh, I think that's why we also like Gilgamesh so much, is that like we really feel for Thena. And we're like, thank
Yeah.
you for taking care of her.
Yeah,
That was
sometimes
cool.
it just happens with actors. Sometimes they get in bands too. It's like when they debut, they're so good that they get popular, but then they get so popular that you hate them, and they start to sell out and just do like Mr. and Mrs. Smith and crap.
Right.
Yeah.
But then after a while, you're like, oh yeah, this is why you're popular. You're actually really good.
She's a really
Yeah.
good actor.
No, yeah, like I like Angelina Jolie. I think
Yeah.
that she's kind of gotten some bad
Yeah.
movies in the past, but like, yeah, I like.
I
her in
don't
this
know if
movie.
she has a ton of plastic surgery or if just the world around her started getting plastic surgery to make them look like her.
It's both.
You know what I mean?
It's both.
It's like
it's all
when
in
she had
everything.
those lips in the 90s, it was like, wow.
But she definitely has some work. Like her face doesn't
of
move
course.
quite as
Well, she's like 50,
with as much
like-
expression.
or
But she looks great. Honestly, I was
No.
stunned. I was like, she looks amazing.
Hold on, I'm looking it up. I'm gonna get there faster than you. But damn it, she's 46.
She's 46.
Oh.
She looks older because of the work.
But she doesn't. She looks older and younger though.
Yeah,
Yeah.
I
She's
don't
just
know.
one of those
That's kinda
faces.
weird.
And then, like, I
It's
don't
that kind of like fake young.
We
look.
shouldn't spend too much time commenting on her appearance.
Let's pick up.
She looks great. I was
pick
going to
apart
say
Angelina
that.
Jolie. Yeah,
Look at
she,
Angelina
But I think
Jolie.
I think she was one of the people I
she
I
looks better
connected
than Barry
with the most.
Kugan. That guy needs a nose job.
Whatever.
I know his.
I love his look.
I
It's
liked him in the
cryptic.
Green Knight. Yeah, he's got this like weird peasant
It's
look.
like, what's he about? He looks like a fox.
Yeah, and what's that? Not the lobster. The one where he's like a psycho kid.
I haven't seen that. I don't know.
It's in the same director as the lobster movie. Yeah,
Yeah.
he's sick in that one.
The person I was with, their 13-year-old daughter was there, and they're like, he's so hot, and I was like, excuse me.
What?
There's
And
a
like-
kid
and
like
so
a hit
apparently-
by a hatchet kind of way.
But no, but he's like, apparently he's super hot for young
Yeah.
people.
I think that like there
got
are
angles.
there are these actors who have like intriguing, confusing looks. Like it's like, what's going on there? He's got that. He's not like traditionally hot.
And then both people I was with freaked out when Harry Styles showed up. They were like
Who's that?
screaming. That's Eros. The guy in the first post-credit scene. So that's Thanos'.
Like they were excited.
Oh,
They
that
were
dude.
so excited. 'Cause that's Thanos' brother.
I honestly like.
This
I
is the
saw him
guy
on
from like
screen.
One Direction.
Yeah,
or
it's one
something?
from Direction.
Well, he's his
But he's-
own.
he's become his own
an
thing
artist
now.
in his own right.
Well, whatever.
He's famous for wearing dresses and being shit on by the right.
He's
So.
really just broken down gender
Masculinity,
norms and like
yeah.
made the way for
Good
the
for
rest
him.
of us.
Good for him.
Yeah.
Young dude trying to do the right thing, but
Sure.
he is a very interesting choice because to me it's like stepping down into the next generation of like stars for the MCU.
That was really funny when he walked
The
out and
worst.
I was like,
You're just old.
you have
Riley.
the face of a famous
mean?
man.
You're just old.
I loved One Direction. I was
What?
like playing their songs and stuff. I just think I think it's like super cringe to get a pop star into like a.
It's like
Marvel-
Lady Gaga's Wonder Woman.
Yeah, it'd be like Lady Gaga shows up and I'm a superhero too. It's like, okay.
Especially
I
at the
know
end
that-
of this movie.
I know that Harry Styles.
I'm
is, like-
Thanos' brother.
Yeah.
It's like, how?
I know that Harry Styles is like trying to do a acting thing. Like he was in 1917, I think, for a second. Or no, what was he in? Oh no, Dunkirk.
Oh, I didn't.
He was in Dunkirk in
He's
a
one of the
minor
kids?
role, and
Cool.
I was like, okay, that's honestly fine. I'm cool with that because it's like if you want to try and like build some cred doing interesting roles, like sure, go for it. But like, I just feel like it's kind of cringe to put this like big pop star into a MCU role now. I don't know. I was not excited, and I also like forgot his name when he showed up. I'm like, oh,
same. I knew I recognized him. I didn't know from what, and they were like, Sarah Styles. Oh my God,
I knew he was like the One Direction pop star guy. I just forgot like his name, and I had to Google it. I'm like, oh yeah, Harry Styles.
No.
Yeah.
I only have 2 more notes, and they're both questions.
Okay.
In the mid-credit scene, where you get that awful full CG Patton Oswalt thing. Ugh.
Oh yeah,
that doesn't look good. I'm pretty sure that him and Harry Thanos were like, hey, we're gonna help you find your friends. That's what they said, right? Let's go find them together. I was like, who are they finding?
Because they're finding the
other Eternals.
Cersei, Phastos, and Kingo got teleported away by Arishem.
That I didn't understand. I thought Arishem had them like, he had them like bound up in chains or whatever, and he was like, we are gonna evaluate humanity. Like, we're gonna let these people live. We're gonna come back later and see if this is a good choice or not.
Yeah.
I thought at that point they went back to Earth, but instead he just like disappeared them somewhere else.
Yeah, they teleported.
What I thought they were
That
going to go
wasn't
find
clear to me.
I thought they were going to go find other Eternals from other planets. Like they weren't just going to find our Eternals. They were going to go like find the Eternals and stop the Celestials by gathering Eternals.
That's the mission that they're on. That's why they leave Earth.
Okay. Yeah.
To like kind of awaken.
Yeah.
Wait, so it's both of those things? We're going to find our friend, the Eternals, and broader Eternals we haven't met yet?
That's how I interpreted it.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
What's your other
They're
question?
going to go red pill the rest of the Eternals.
My other question is Dane Whitman, the Black Knight. This is just so stupid, but I just wonder. Should he be a black actor?
Okay.
And it's basically based on this one line from Kill Bill when when Copperhead is she's the mom that they fight in the suburbs, when she's like, Black Mamba. I should have been motherfucking Black Mamba. I was like, I just thought of that line. And I was like, when I learned this guy was a Black Knight, I was like,
Well, interestingly,
like obviously I don't give a fuck.
Interestingly, like
But,
obviously
like,
I might
do
be
other
wrong.
people?
I might be wrong about this, but like I thought at first that the voice that asks him if he's ready for the sword at the end, it was like Nick Fury at first, but it's not. I'm pretty sure that was a black person's voice. Maybe this is me just like being a horrible person, but I'm pretty sure it was, which would make this so much more interesting.
Yeah. But I mean, like,
are you sure you're ready for this? Because really, it should be me.
I think most people. I hear what you're saying. I think most people are okay with like Black Knight being like an Arthurian thing.
Yeah.
And, like I don't know. To me, it means nothing.
To me, I was like, that sealed the deal for me for this being like, what the fuck is going on at the MCU headquarters? Like, what is Kevin Feige's lost it? They're scraping the bottom of the barrel. The Black Knight? Who the hell is that?
It's weird because I think they've done a really good job getting me excited about like this phase.
It's got a magic
with,
sword.
Like, WandaVision and Loki, and like the new Doctor Strange. Like they're going weird multiverse shit, and like they're kind of going to go into horror with Blade, and like I'm like, okay, this is cool. But then like Arthurian legends,
but I think this was like
full fantasy god stories.
So
I don't know. It just doesn't connect.
Yeah, but that will totally work if is Mobius an MCU movie?
Morbius. No, it's a Sony. So it's
okay.
It's connected.
I could see a medieval night guy facing off with vampires and Blade and stuff like that. That'd be cool.
I actually can see the Blade. I don't know. I'm just a little bit.
The reason this post-credit scene made me feel so weird is because I'm like, first of all, this is like completely unrelated to the rest of the movie. It was like Eternals, gods, blah, blah, blah. All of a sudden we have the Black Knight from medieval times. I don't know. And then secondly, who knows who the Black? I had to Google this.
Never
had to Google it.
Never heard of him.
I'm like, why are they teasing a character that no one knows? It's like, it would be one thing to kind of tease the Eternals because it's like there are these superpowered beings out in the cosmos, and that's like a default thing that we could like be interested in. You know, it's like we've been introduced to space magic characters in the MCU already.
Yeah,
but this is a whole new thing. We're getting into Arthurian legend.
Okay, similar to that though. In the post-credit scene, when he's handed a chest.
Yeah.
Does he open the chest?
Yeah.
Yes.
And he looks at the sword, and it's like banded.
And he goes and reaches for the sword, and it's got little filaments on it that like.
It looks like it's a magic sword.
It looks like a magic sword.
You can get excited about that by default, just like you're saying with the space stuff.
And I also think that
barely. It's just jarring.
There's two types of reveals in the MCU. There's character reveals and then actor reveals. And I think like Eros is an actor reveal. Like
medieval character.
Or
Game of Thrones actor.
No, not even that. It's like Eros. Like
the Harry Styles
most
guy.
people don't know that character. I didn't know that character. I had to look at it's Thanos' brother. That's cool, sure. But it's like, this character is now part of the MCU. And I think for him, exactly like you're saying, it's Jon Snow is now part of the MCU. He's not just a passing character.
Yeah.
He will matter.
But I think another thing that made it
Jason Momoa chose Aquaman.
Is the
bad choice. Although it's one of the most successful superhero movies of the last decade.
He's back and he's in Dune now.
I think another thing that made it weird was when he's walking with Cersei at the end. They're in the park or whatever before she gets taken up. And before she gets taken up, he says, "Oh yeah, I have an interesting character history or something.
A family history.
I have an interesting family history." And we're like, "Oh, is he going to be related to Captain America or like a Stark or something?"
Yeah.
Like, but no, it's just this like random magic sword guy.
Yeah. Whatever. Do you think that they are? Who's at the head of that? Because I know in the DC realm, you've got who's the guy who directed the latest Suicide Squad?
James Gunn.
James Gunn was basically like, I read these comics. There's these characters in there that would never get a second issue. I want them in my movie.
Right.
I want this polka dot dude.
Yeah, but that feels appropriate for a Guardians of the Galaxy, a Suicide Squad, where the whole kind of joke about it, the thing that makes it endearing, is the fact that it's these characters that no one really cares about. Or
it's kind of like a self-aware winking kind of thing.
It's like we have Weasel in Suicide Squad.
But the question really is like, are there directors that Feige or Marvel wants to bring on, or people pitching Marvel being like, look, I know obviously you want to expand beyond the main heroes, the tier 1 that we have. You really could go either way. There's thousands of heroes. Mm-hmm. I personally think that these stories are really, really cool, and they pitched the hell out of it.
Yeah.
And then Feige was like, all right, you get to do the Black Knight movie.
Right.
Well, and also, I mean, like Black Knight's a big player against Kang the Conqueror. So that's Kang the Conqueror seems to be Thanos of Phase 4 or whatever.
Right. We're really just
where have we
pulling
seen
people
Kang so far?
In Loki. He's like the guy at the end of the world in Loki.
Oh, that dude. Yeah. Okay.
Yeah, so like they kill him, but the other version is Kang the Conqueror.
He Who Remains.
Yeah, that's right. Yeah, I remember
think they're just really pulling people off the bench now. I don't have a problem with the idea of like making a Black Knight movie or whatever, or like delving into these lesser known characters. It's just the way that they teased this was just like weird.
Yeah.
I was just like not into it.
I want to see a Black Panther character meet the Black Knight and be like, oh, Black Knight, okay. You know when they make the characters do weird interactions? I want to see the Black Panther comment on Dane Whitman's whiteness. That'd be funny.
That's gonna be weird. A year from now, when Black Panther 2 comes out, what are they doing?
Hopefully a better movie than the first one.
Yeah, but who's?
It's not. He didn't film that movie, so
yeah. Who's the Black
I've
Panther?
heard Suri is going to be main character, but they are. She's kind of getting canceled because she's super anti-vax. So
that sucks.
Yeah.
Dang it! Everyone, she was a fan favorite.
So many people are on the wrong side of history with that. It's like such a shame.
What did you guys feel? Did you guys feel like it was weird, that sex scene and the gay kiss? It's like those are firsts for MCU, but I'm like, it was like nothing. It was
I saw the all the headlines that some countries in the Middle East weren't showing this movie, and maybe the headlines made it more about the gay kiss, like, oh, they have to cut scenes. It's like they cut a 10-second inconsequential scene of him kissing goodbye.
Yeah,
I almost feel like those outrage headlines are like planted by Disney to make people be like, whoa, holy shit.
Yeah,
and it's like nobody actually fucking cares.
Those articles, those news outlets are incentivized to do that kind of crap as well.
Fair.
But I did, it's the kind of thing where when you get like 20 paragraphs in. First, you skip the first 5 paragraphs because they are just saying the headline again. Yep. Then you read the actual meat of the story for 3 paragraphs. And then there's like all the backstory paragraphs at the bottom. And that's when they were talking about like, it's also possible that just the nature of having all these demigods and stuff is something that in the past has prevented movies from having wide release in Islamic countries. So it's I could totally see that being more egregious. Yeah. Well, not more egregious, but also egregious and more throughout the movie.
My biggest problem with the sex scene is that they're doing it on sand.
Yeah.
That's dangerous. What are you doing?
Wait, you've never done it?
On sand?
They're Eternals. They have durability.
Oh my god.
Friction isn't a problem.
That's the one power they all share. Sand.
Wait a second. Cersei can like change matter. Doesn't matter.
Oh shit.
She literally has changed sand into water in this movie.
Or just into like
lube?
Soft
spermicidal lube.
Can they reproduce? We don't know. We'll find out. I guess they can, though.
I guess not. No.
Because Eros is Thanos' brother. The whole idea is that Thanos is a Eternal with a deviant gene. Yeah. He was born.
I guess that's right.
We'll see. We're into hit picks and nitpicks now, right?
Yeah. Oh, I'm done mine. I'm done everything.
DC Comics exists in the MCU.
What do you mean?
Yeah, Superman. I noticed that too.
That was so funny.
Oh, when they mentioned Superman.
She's like, the kid is like, you're Superman. I was like, wait.
I think they just had to get out ahead of the fact that it's like Icarus is obviously just Superman.
No, and that's totally why they put it in. But now it's like, now there's a whole thing. Now there's a whole like.
No, the kid didn't mean Superman one word. He meant 2 words. Superman.
Ubermensch.
Yeah.
You're like the Ubermensch.
That's right, Cersei.
I'm always annoyed. This is sort of a bigger one, but I'm always annoyed whenever there's a story about aliens deciding whether humans are worthy of like living or not. And it's like, you're just conscious. You're just regular conscious beings. Like, it's one thing for like a celestial because we don't really know their nature, you know? Like, maybe they do have access to more information. They probably do about like the nature of reality or whatever. Maybe they know something about like what is ultimately good or the right thing to do or whatever, you know? It's like, so we can't like put them on a level playing field. We can criticize them, but when it's just like the Eternals being like, maybe humans are worth saving. It's like, you're just basically, you're humans.
There's 7,000-year-old humans.
Yeah, I know, but like you just have superpowers. Like who are you to judge this other group of people? It's like if we went to a planet and they were less capable than us and we're like, do they deserve to live? Like, it's not up to us.
I mean, is there anything more human than to judge?
Sure. I just mean it annoys me because I'm fair. It's philosophically bankrupt.
I agree. I think, if you present it as
Unless
that argument.
Unless you think power is the ultimate determinant of what is right in the world, then that does make sense.
Really reminds me of the argument of people who criticize vegetarians who are vegetarian because they don't want to, from the grounds of animal cruelty. And then the counter argument is like, well, when you're eating quinoa, you know, a combine went by and massacred 400,000 bulls.
Right.
And so it's actually more units of death than just eating one cow.
Yeah.
But like, so do you value life differently because that cow is just larger, or like maybe it has more emotions that you identify with than like these grasshoppers, or is life just life?
I think when you delve into like, are we getting into this? Sure. I think when you really delve into the like complexities of the science and like the systems and like, I don't think you can compare an insect's life to a cow's life. I think there's a conscious experience that is broadly different.
Right. So you're the alien that goes to the other planet and be like, they suck, guys. Who cares? Just blow the planet up.
Well, but they're conscious beings. They have sentience. I'm just saying that, from the Eternals' perspective, they might live longer and they might be more capable. But from a conscious experience perspective, they're the exact same. They're humans.
Like there's humans who are like smarter than these Eternals or have greater
exactly
feel more deeply than these.
So
Eternals.
like the only value or quality that you would be able to judge them on is power. If you believe that you have a more of a right to judge or more of a right to make decisions because you're more powerful, then yeah. But otherwise, it's philosophically bankrupt.
So are there any MC or Marvel superheroes who exist on this Earth that are more powerful than any of these Eternals?
Captain Marvel.
Yeah.
There's lots.
Wait, isn't she really?
I feel like Thor could probably take him out.
Yeah, but those aren't Earthlings. I'm talking about like Spider-Man.
Oh, like mutants?
Doctor Strange probably could.
Doctor Strange could probably hold his own.
Yeah. That's cosmic power, right?
Yeah. But he's Earthling. But you're right. It's not like Earth power. Are you
saying like a mutated human?
I'm just saying anyone who's like an Earthling, like who has powers. How do they all get their powers?
Technology
maybe or mutations.
Hulk
really.
in the right situation could probably take most of them.
Yep.
I think there's a lot that could.
So they don't have the right. There you go. Power level, not great enough.
Sure.
To make that decision.
Okay, if we're going with that, frame of reference.
Yeah, level 35.
Totally different note.
You need to get to the end game.
Yeah, I was thinking about those kind of stats and stuff. I was like, oh, they lost their healer, Ajax, right at the beginning. The other team sucks. Like,
this one felt the most like a video game to me. Like, even that fight in Babylon where they're fighting like the big deviant and then the punchy dude punches. I was like, oh, man, this really fucking feels like there should be like a little like victory theme at the end of this fight. Like,
was I the only one? I hope I am, but I swear to God, in the scene where they're in the ship at the very beginning of the movie, when Icarus is like, I make it.
I hated that.
And then Cersei was like, I'm sassy. I heard her name as Sassy.
Oh, no, I didn't hear that.
Oh, because she's got a British accent.
And then later on when she said her, I was like, hold on. Your name is Sassy. They went with like a character being named
Sassy.
Like Icarus and Sassy are diametrically opposed on the spectrum of names.
Yeah.
Like
and then
the cat from Homeward Bound?
I was like, this is brutal. And then it turned out it was Cersei. I liked that a lot more. But did anyone else hear that?
No.
You weren't there.
I wasn't there.
I was mad for a different reason. Every time in a movie, they have to balance like believability and utility. And that's a scene where the utility far outweighs the like realism of that conversation. Because they wake up, they're like, beautiful, huh? I'm Icarus. I'm Cersei. And it's like, what the fuck? That's not how people fucking talk.
Imagine their first meeting.
Is this them? Is this them like...
They just wake up out of stasis or whatever.
Oh, and is this them like naming themselves? Or is it like
No, it's
remembering?
like, I am this person. And it's like, you could kind of do that, but it's not presented in a way where you're like, oh, they're snapping into consciousness. And they're like, I'm Cersei.
Who are they talking to?
They're talking to each other. They're introducing themselves to each other.
Oh, they don't know each other.
No, but they're introducing themselves to the audience more
Yeah.
more than anything.
But
And that
they're also
really
establishing
fucking bothered
their
me.
relationship.
But
Barely.
the
There's
That's why
so
it's
many better
those
ways.
two introducing each other.
I understand that, but like, man, there is a million better ways to do it than what they did.
Okay,
He
so
should have like cooked a hot dog with his laser eyes and been like, want a bite of this wiener?
Don't act like you're not impressed.
Babylonian
That's
wiener.
smoky. There's cheese inside.
There's a stand.
She's like, I don't like mustard. Turns it to ketchup. He's like, wow, touche.
Nice. I didn't even know what that was.
did they tell us why the deviants became active again?
Oh no, that was another one.
That
of
was a
my,
loose thread.
Why are
yeah.
they back?
No.
I don't remember.
Yeah, you guys didn't see it. Okay, this is another one of my mid picks. So like in the flashback, in the flashback scene where Icarus is like about to kill Ajax,
Yeah, push her off the cliff.
he brings her over, to that area, and he's like, they thought they killed all the deviants, and he's like, and then they see
Oh, they
more down there.
climate changed out of the ice.
Well, this is what's funny about it. He's like, they emerged from the ice when the glaciers melted. From the emergence heating up the planet. I was like, okay, so he said that, and I was like, oh, are they saying something about climate change?
I do
And then
remember
it's like,
that.
nope.
Yeah, I remember that now. Yeah,
In
fuck.
fact, the opposite. They're saying, there's no anthropomorphic
Yeah.
It was such
climate
like a
change. It's actually a celestial
It's
cause.
God.
I
It's
had
God.
like like topic whiplash. I was like,
Yeah.
what?
That was
It's
rough.
not about okay.
Oh,
Honestly-
and then he pushes her down onto the ice, and there's just a gun down there.
Yeah, what?
Where'd that gun
She
come
just
from?
picks up a
Yeah, what?
shotgun and starts shooting them.
Wait, but was it because they killed people? Were there dead people down there already?
Oh,
Had they
maybe.
killed like
yeah, it was
I
like the
guess.
miners or whatever.
Yeah,
but
yeah,
like,
killed the
but
miners.
still, I was dumb.
they killed the miners and they have shotguns.
yeah, that whole scene was.
The miners had shotguns.
That was.
There's still ammo left. The deviants allowed the shotgun to lay there.
Yeah.
That is whatever.
Sprite. We didn't talk about Sprite really at all.
I like the idea of Sprite, but the
I like the idea that she's like pissed that she was trapped in this
Yep.
human body that like had impacts for her living on this planet. That was
Yeah.
pretty cool.
It-
She still could have hooked up with any of those Eternals. They wouldn't care, would they?
Well, and
this
like
was
also like there's a
funny.
whole subsection of people that are not well that would be very happy to hook up with her.
This is what's so funny though because
she
it's like,
could have.
it's like she's like
Does she look like a kid to you guys? By the way,
Yes,
I couldn't like figure it out really.
she
she looks like
looked,
a teen.
She looked honestly like she has that look where she's like
How
she
old is
could
she,
be
though?
either just like a really young looking maybe young adult or like a old looking teenager.
Yeah.
I don't know. But what was so weird about it is that it's like she's probably teen age, and so it's like, okay, is this weird? But like, she's thousands of years old. Okay, so like, if she really wanted to get down, she could.
She could find someone.
Well,
but they make it seem as if she can't.
that
because
actor is
she-
actually 14. That's insane.
Oh,
That's
damn,
cool.
okay.
I thought I was just like, yeah, that actor's obviously 19 or 20, and
Oh, really?
and you know how you get old and like anyone under 25
Looks
like
yeah.
ages 12 to 25 are like the same.
Like
to you.
Timothy Chalamet being 25.
I live with a 15-year-old, but this actor looks older.
She does. She has that like she's got a
Not in this picture, that's for sure.
she's got interesting features. It's like it's not like typical I'm a kid features. I don't know what that means.
Maybe it's the Karen haircut they gave her.
Maybe.
I believe
Yeah.
she was an old soul, that's for sure.
She definitely had like a haircut where you're like you're making that decision as a mature person.
I like the way they
Imagine
characterize
she
her.
had pigtails and like thigh-high socks or something.
That would be
Scrunchy.
weird. That would make it way weirder.
Yeah.
Very.
I think they do a good job with characterizing her quickly. Like that one scene at the birthday party for Jon Snow, where she's like, she's presenting as a grown woman, and the person goes to touch her hand, and like you see that she like wants to have this big exterior, like this grown exterior, but she can't
Right.
get it.
I thought
That
she was
like,
in a
that's
bar.
It was a bar, wasn't it?
Why the hell is she in there?
Because she can present as a 25-year-old.
I mean,
Okay,
that's
I'm off the
that's-
hook then.
That's the part of the movie. Okay, that's the part of the movie I missed and read about later. Was that like she's in London trying to live as an adult?
Yeah,
Because she's like, all right, that's enough. I can do it. But then it's like, no,
she can't
you
be touched.
But
Wait, what? She
'Cause-
literally can't be touched?
well,
Well, you must have missed it. She
I
like,
saw that her
she's
hand
a,
passes
Yeah, because she
through.
can be a hologram. Like she can have this hologram around her that makes her look like she's anyone.
Oh, that's what she was doing. I did miss that.
yeah.
Okay.
But then she can't be touched.
oh,
She can, only her child body can be touched.
Oh, so she was making it appear as if she was older?
Yeah,
She-
yeah, because like that, there was a pretty girl that was like looked 25, 30 or whatever, and
Oh.
that was her. But it's just
Okay, so I
So,
yeah,
but
I
it
was
looked
not-
like her. It wasn't a different actor. Was it a
there's
different
a
actor?
different. It's a different actor.
Oh, I totally forgot. I forget.
I was like, yeah. So
At least that's how- I
completely
might
missed
be
this
wrong, but
part.
that's how I interpreted it.
The reason I wanted to talk about it though is because the lore, them changing the lore in this way, completely screws it up.
Oh.
In
Oh.
the comics, she's an organic being, and there's a reason why she's young. There's a reason why she appears young is because it's like part of the mutation that makes them Eternals. Like
Oh.
the Celestials took humans and they messed with their genetic code and they modified them so that they had these powers or whatever, but it ends up being having all these different outcomes. The deviants look weird, and for Sprite, she appears as a child. And so there was like a reason for that, and so there's like a valid, I don't know, we're kind of like, oh, that sucks that she was saddled with this, but it's like, that's the way it kind of turned out. But in this one, the Celestials apparently consciously made her as a kid for why? For what reason?
Just assholes.
Exactly. And then
well,
she
we've
has
already
these
established
desires.
the Celestials are imperfect in their powers.
Yeah. So it was just more annoying.
I think minor mid-pick, maybe borderline hit pick.
That's just a note, you guys.
Okay, a note. I like
mid-pick is like, I don't know how I feel about it, but it made me go like, ooh.
Is how they deal with her character at the end, where they turn her into a mortal because they still have the power of the Unimind. But
that's cool. This character's not returning. I don't care.
Well, is
that what that means?
No, to me it was. We know that the other characters, we can make them seem about the same age for probably a decade, and this actor within 2 years will look totally different.
You're right.
So it was smart to make them mortal, so that like as they age out of 13 years or 14 years old,
if they want to bring
acceptable.
her back. Yeah,
I was like, that's smart. That's a mid pick.
Yeah, that also happens in the comics.
Nice.
Yeah. That's the.
I'm Riley. I present as having read the comics, but I just read the Wikipedia.
I
for the
didn't.
show.
I have not read the comics. This is all just.
I'm glad you do it.
My last nitpick is the wasted opportunity when Cersei and Jon Snow are teaching. It's also great because Cersei is a Game of Thrones character, but she shows up late to the class and they start teaching, and they're teaching the kids, I don't know, whatever. And in a movie that's like a good time, you can kind of like subtly bring in the theme or the idea of what you're doing, and she just starts talking about apex predators. And it's like,
well, that's about deviants, though.
Yeah, but it's like you could do an interesting idea, not just like things are dangerous.
Something more core to the theme of the movie.
It would
like,
be such
is humanity worthy? Or
exactly.
Whatever.
You could do a way more interesting.
What was the deal that Arishem said? Like, okay, this planet has an ecosystem. The ecosystem has predators. The deviants are sent in to kill the apex predators,
so intelligent life can flourish. Because if the dinosaurs never died out, then maybe like mammals wouldn't have.
But then they lost control of the deviants. They're supposed to just turn them off or something.
If the dinosaurs died out, not because of humans, they died because of a fucking meteor.
No, I know, but them dying out allowed mammals to have that space to evolve into the top person.
Makes me think of
being.
But humans got here and we do have apex predators.
Or
do we? Maybe the deviants killed them all.
Oh no, with the intelligence build.
Yeah, but like I think the idea is that like there were a lot of apex predators and like a dinosaur can kill.
Was that a Tear Zoo reference?
Yeah.
Okay, nice.
Dude, that's the best channel ever. I just discovered it. It's so good.
What did you say?
It's good for like a binge for a week. And then
Yeah, exactly. There's probably enough time.
You don't know Tear Zoo?
Tear Zoo?
Yeah, you'll figure it out.
Yeah, look up Tear Zoo.
Continue.
Yeah, I'll Google
Audience,
it
look up Tear Zoo.
on my Wikipedia K-holes. Mid-pick is they're all getting their colored suits on in the ship, and they get their bracelets on. And I just had like a real like Go-Go Power Rangers moment where they all have different colored suits and stuff, and they're like doing this pose with the.
That
with the
was
wrist.
lame.
Yeah.
When they all did that, I was like, let's make a Megazord, Captain Planet.
Well, that's what I expected. The Unimind was to be like a big figure, not just like laser beams.
my
a
God.
giant Angelina Jolie.
That would be so much worse.
Just a floating Jolie head, just eating things,
Go
slurping them up with those big billowy lips.
I really don't like the name Unimind. For some reason, it just seems really.
No one
stupid to
does.
me.
It's just like a 70s Marvel thing. So they winked at it in this movie.
Yeah.
Fair.
They have to bring it in and then say it's stupid, and then it's okay. Yeah, you can still put it in the movie.
Yep.
Well, that's all I have to say.
This podcast went on for an eternity.
Yeah, we should not have talked about this movie for this long.
You know what?
I'm glad we did. Though.
I have a response to the criticism that like, oh, this podcast is longer than the movie. How long have we been talking about the Mona Lisa? Longer than it took to paint it? Yes.
Booyakasha.
You can critique art for far. You should be able to talk about art for far longer than it takes to produce the art.
No.
At the same
or consume
time,
the art.
At the same time, we can make it a bit shorter.
No.
Next week, Matrix 2, y'all.
We'll see.
3 hours.
Oh, fuck. All right, Matrix 2. Tweet at us at TJMPod. Email us hello@they'rejustmovies.com.
That'll be really wrong, though, if we talk about The Matrix 2 for less time than we talked about Eternals.
I don't know. It's a pretty dumb fucking movie.
It only has 2 characters. This movie has 20. So.
That's true.
Anyways, bye.
They have the twins.